On the 1st of March in 1896, one of the greatest victories in the history of Africa was achieved. Ethiopia fought Italy and defeated Italy at the Battle of Adwa. This is one of the greatest victories ever attained in Africa. This is why Ethiopia was never colonized. The Italians wanted to colonize Ethiopia, but Ethiopia, under the leadership of the great Emperor Menelik II, resisted the Italians and fought at the Battle of Adwa and defeated the Italians massively. Fellow Africans, the Battle of Adwa is a battle which should be celebrated by every African of goodwill, because it is sure that we Africans can fight and defeat the Europeans. So Emperor Menelik, the great leader of Ethiopia at that time, had a well-organized army that fought the Italians and defeated them decisively at the Battle of Adwa. So this is the memorial place, the place where people should come and meditate on that victory that Africans attained. This is a place for reflection. This is a place for meditation. This is a place for rethinking Africa's future. This is a place for analyzing the situation in Africa now. So what lessons do we learn from this battle that Ethiopia won? What lessons can we learn today as Africans? First of all, if you look at Africa today is under neo-colonialism. Africa today has been recolonized, and even now Africans do not own Africa. African presidents or African leaders are being controlled by remote from outside. So they cannot fight to free Africa today. Yes, we got flag independence, but are we free in Africa today? No, we are not free. Is there freedom in Africa? Are you free? Are you free? No, we are not. Are our African presidents free? No, they are not. In fact, they are even more chained than us. So fellow Africans, what do we learn from this victory? Today I came to this place to meditate on the victory of Adwa. We need the spirit with which the Ethiopians fought the Italians at Adwa and won this battle. We need that spirit to descend upon Africans today, so that we can fight the many battles we are supposed to fight today to redeem Africa. Today we have so many battles to fight in Africa. We have to fight poverty, we have to fight unemployment, we have to fight politics, we have to fight neo-colonialism, we have to fight economic imprisonment, we have to fight modern day slavery. We have to fight so many battles. We have to fight battles against climate change. We have to fight battles against exploitation of women and girls. We have to fight battles against wars and conflicts in Africa. These are many battles that we are supposed to fight. The question is, how prepared are we to fight these battles? Are we ready to fight these battles? Are we organized like the Ethiopians were organized under Emperor Menelik II? So what lessons can we learn from this battle that Ethiopians won against the Italians? Number one, the Ethiopians won because they were organized. They were organized into one unit under the leadership of Emperor Menelik II. Quick questions. Are we organized today in Africa? In which African country are Africans organized? In which African country today are we united against the problems that we face? If you look at the African Union today, which is an institution which is in the ICU, are we organized in the AU? No, we are not. Are we united as the African Union? No. There is no union in the African Union. In fact, the word union in the African Union is meaningless today in the present state of the African Union. So, lesson number one, Ethiopians were united under Emperor Menelik II. This battle that they won at Adwa showed that with unity we can achieve anything we want as Africans. When we are united under a leader, we can fight our battles and win. Quick questions. Are we united in Africa today? Is there unity in any African country? If there's a problem facing a country, can we come together as citizens and fight that battle together today in Africa? Lesson number two, there was leadership in Ethiopia at that time. Without proper leadership, Ethiopians would have never defeated the Italians. That means with leadership, we can unite ourselves to fight our battles. Fellow Africans, you will agree with me that today, as I speak now, leadership is the greatest need of the hour in Africa. Because we lack leadership in Africa, our resources are being taken by the Europeans. Because we lack leadership in Africa, our people are in modern day slavery. Because we lack leadership in Africa, we are not in charge of our affairs. Because we lack leadership in Africa, we have over 50 military bases of foreign countries in Africa. As I speak today, today is the 19th of February 2025. So we lack leadership in Africa. That's why the other continents look at us as second-class people. Africans are treated by the world as if we are second-class people, as if we are supposed to apologize for being Africans. I dare say, fellow Africans, we are not second-class people. We are first-class people. We are the children of the cradle of human civilization. We are queens and kings. We are legends. We are princes and princesses. So we cannot settle for less. We cannot allow ourselves to be underrated. We can't allow ourselves to be undervalued. We must know our values as Africans. We are Africans and we are proud to be Africans. We don't have to apologize for being Africans. So fellow Africans, this Battle of Adwa that was won by Ethiopia under Menelik II teaches us so many lessons. So if we can come together as Africans, we can win every battle. The question becomes, are we ready to come together to fight our battles? We are fighting among ourselves in Africa. Petty issues are causing us to fight, to kill brothers and sisters, to slay one another, to shed blood. Why are we doing this? When the locusts are fighting, it is the job of the hawks. Because if they kill each other, then the hawks get the food easily. This is what is happening in Africa. Why are we fighting, yet we are all locusts? Look, fellow Africans, the outside continents are the hawks. So when we are fighting as Africans, and we kill each other, the hawks get the food easily when we are fighting. Ethiopia won the Battle of Adwa because the Ethiopians were not fighting among themselves. They were organized under their leader. Who is going to step up today and organize Africans to fight the hawks? Who is going to rise and lead Africa so that together we can win our battles? Who is going to rise and bring us together so that together we can fight for our freedom? Because we have the flags in Africa, but are we free? No, we are not free. Nobody is free in Africa. Do we control our health systems? No. Do we control our financial systems? No. Are we in charge of our education systems? No. Are we in charge of our leadership? No. Are we in charge of democracy and governance in Africa? No. Then what are we in charge of? Basically nothing. Because we are not united as Africans. The Ethiopians have a lot to teach us. They united and they defeated the mighty Italian armies. What are we going to defeat today? In our present state, we cannot defeat any enemy with our disunity. We know that unity is strength and disunity is weakness. We know this. Then why can't we come together and unite as Africans? Why can't we come together and pursue our dreams? Why can't we come together and build the Africa that we want? So fellow Africans, let us take lessons from the Battle of Adwa that was won by Ethiopia in 1896. We are living in 2025. Africa today is fully colonized. We are not free even to move within Africa. How can an African pay a lot of money for visas to travel within Africa? Look at the cost of air transport in Africa. Look at the cost of education in Africa. Are we in control of our affairs? No, we are not. Because we are not united. And guess what? For as long as we are disunited, we shall never be in charge of our affairs in Africa. For as long as we are disunited, we shall forever remain slaves. For as long as we are disunited, we shall forever be controlled by the outside continents. Africa today remains, in the words of Professor Piolo Lumumba, food on the dinner table of civilization being eaten by France, America, UK, Russia, and the other civilizations. This is Africa today. We are food on the dinner table being eaten by other civilizations. Quick questions. For how long shall we be food on a dinner table? Does it bother you that Africa is food on a dinner table today being eaten by other civilizations? What does it mean to you when Africans are not free to move even in Africa? What does it mean to you when the cost of living is so high in Africa? What does it mean to you when we cannot move our goods and services across our borders, the colonial borders in Africa today?
Hello?
Does it bother you?
Hello?
Don't you think we need change in Africa? So what change are you going to cause in Africa? The young people must take the lead. We must rise and provide the leadership that we need to build the Africa that we want. Some of the old people are not going to help us. You know why? Because the damage has already been done. Their minds are already properly enslaved. They are not free in their minds. So Bob Marley sang that emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Are you free in the mind? That's the question. Are you free in the mind, fellow Africans? Is your mind free? What kind of books are you reading? What kind of songs are you listening to? What kind of movies are you watching? Are you busy posting useless contents on TikTok? Or you are busy posting things that can build Africa? Are you aware that you have a role to play to build Africa? Do you know that you need to step up and make a contribution to the struggle to build Africa? What are you going to do to build the Africa that we want? Let us stop petty fighting among ourselves, Africans. This is our time to build Africa. This is our time to make Africa rise. This is our time to make Africa sit at the dinner table as a diner, not as food to be eaten. We have been food for too long. Now it is time for us to sit and eat. How shall we do that? Number one, we must take charge of our resources. We must own our resources. We must not allow our resources to be exploited. The Ethiopians resisted being colonized. We should resist this modern day colonization. We should not allow our resources to be controlled by Europe and America and Asia. No, we can't allow that now. So once we take charge of our resources, then we can negotiate with the other continents on equal terms. Because we have the resources here in Africa, they need them. We must process the resources ourselves and then trade with the outside continents. We must sell the finished products. We must not sell coffee in raw form. Why are we doing that up to now? We cannot continue selling cocoa in raw form. We cannot do that. We cannot continue selling gold in raw form. We need to process the raw materials and sell the finished products. Only then shall we sit at the dinner table as a diner. Otherwise, we shall forever remain food to be eaten. Europe will come to Africa and take our resources. America will come and take our resources. China will come and take our resources. This is modern day colonization. This is modern day slavery. This is modern day exploitation. We cannot accept that. Fellow Africans, we need to do what Emperor Menelik II did. That made Ethiopians to win the battle against the Italians. How are we going to do that? We need leadership. The question is, who are the leaders? Who will lead Africa today? Who are the leaders who will lead us so that we sit at the dinner table as diners? Who are our leaders? As we know, most of the so-called presidents of Africa, most of them are agents of the Western countries. They are not serving our interests as Africa. So we should never expect them to build the Africa that we want. These so-called leaders who are actually politicians. We should never mistake politicians for leaders. Putting a politician in a leadership position is like putting a square peg in a round hole. A square peg can never fit in a round hole. A round peg can never fit in a square hole. We need leaders to occupy leadership positions. That is like putting square pegs in square holes and round pegs in round holes. We cannot continue forcing square pegs to fit in round holes. Square pegs can never fit in round holes. That's why we have the Africa that we have today, because we have put square pegs in round holes and we expect the square pegs to fit in the round holes. How can that be? That is not possible. So the young people, this is my message to you. Chinua Achebe wrote in his book, Things Fall Apart, that where are the young suckers that will rise when the old banana tree dies? Where are the young suckers that will rise when the old banana tree dies? The young people are the young suckers that should rise and take the lead to build the Africa that we want. We should not wait for the old banana trees to first die. No. We should rise now and make a contribution. The question is, have you risen as a young African? What contribution are you making to the struggle to build Africa? I am so glad to be in Ethiopia today. I attended the AU summit and I spoke to the African presidents and I told them we need to rise now and build Africa. We should never count on the people whose minds are already captured, the people who are in mental slavery. Those people will never build Africa that we want. We can't count on them. Fellow Africans, Africa counts on you. Fellow young Africans, Africa counts on us to rise now and take the lead. We don't need to necessarily occupy political positions. No. Leadership is not about occupying a political position. Leadership is about rising, identifying a problem, and creating a solution to the problem. That's leadership. So you can help your people repair that broken bridge in your village. That's leadership. You can rally your people together to solve the problem of teenage pregnancies. That's leadership. You can rally your people to come together, to work for their survival, to become self-reliant, to fight for what they want. That's leadership. You don't need to be elected to do that. You don't need anybody to elect you to do that. Now the question is, what problems have you identified in your area? Leadership begins with yourself. If you can't lead yourself, you cannot lead other people. If you cannot lead yourself, you cannot lead other people. So if you cannot lead yourself, whom are you going to lead? Whom are you going to lead if you cannot lead yourself? So fellow Africans, the time is now to rise and build Africa. Let us take lessons from the Battle of Adwa. Let us unite to fight our battles. We have so many battles to fight today. We have to fight against hunger. Africans are still dying of hunger. Up to now, as I speak now, Africans are dying of hunger. How can it be that up to now, our people are still dying of hunger? It is because we lack leadership. Those in positions of authority are the ones fighting our people. Some of them are grabbing the land of the people. Some of them are exploiting their own people. Some of them are mistreating their own people in Africa here. And then we claim that we want to build Africa that we want. What kind of hypocrisy is that? Africa is a continent governed by hypocrisy today. So how shall we be free when we are hypocrites in our own affairs? How? As I walk in the streets of Addis Ababa, I am amazed by the level of racism that I see. How can we treat each other like that in Africa? If you go to Europe, you go to America, you go to Asia, you find Africans complaining of racism outside Africa. But here in Africa, racism is a hidden scar in the collective conscience of Africans. This is what we need to fight, fellow Africans. How can we come together if we judge each other based on the color of their skin? How can we do that? The racism in Africa, oh God, it's crazy. We are our own enemies sometimes. We are our own enemies in Africa sometimes. So if we cannot come together, we should forget about ever occupying our place on the global stage. The world is fighting for global dominance. The countries want to take their position on the global stage. Africa remains a supplier of raw materials in the world market. We are busy supplying raw materials to Europe, to America, to Asia, but we are not industrializing here in Africa. How can it be up to now? What is the African Union doing? The African Union, as I said at the AU Summit, is in the ICU. It needs serious medical treatment. It needs resuscitation. My God, the African Union is in the ICU and in a coma. It needs serious resuscitation to live and survive. Otherwise, the leadership we need for building the Africa that we want must be provided by the African Union. When I read the Africa Agenda 2063 that was launched in 2013 by the African Union, you find very beautiful aspirations where Africa is supposed to be in 2063. We're in 2025. The agenda was launched in 2013. So 12 years later, there is no serious progress made. So that tells you that by 2063, the agenda will never have been achieved. So this agenda will never be realized if we continue leading Africa the way we're doing it now. What kind of hypocrisy is that? So the African Union needs proper treatment, needs to be sanitized, needs to be woken up so that it can provide the leadership that we need for building the Africa that we want. At the just concluded AU Summit, we were talking about justice for Africans and people of African descent through reparations. How will Africa in the present state hold Europe accountable for the crimes committed against Africans during the slave trade and the colonization? How shall we do that when we are disorganized like this? How shall we get Europe, America, and Asia to pay Africa for the damages done to Africa when we are not organized? How shall we do that? It is impossible. When I was a little boy studying at Lalia Primary School in Gulu, Uganda, I was told this little story about the rats and the cat. One day the rats had a meeting. In that meeting, they were discussing how they can prevent the cat from eating them. So they came up with very many ideas. Then one wise rat said, let us put a bell on the neck of the cat so that when the cat is coming, we can hear and run away. They all jumped up in joy. What a brilliant idea. One wise rat asked a question. This is a brilliant idea, but who will The cat. Who is going to put the bell on the neck of the cat? Who? The meeting ended like that. So up to now, there is no bell on the neck of the cat. So the cat is still eating the rats. This is what is going to happen to Africans if we are not careful. Because if we want Europe and America and Asia to pay Africa for the damages done to Africans, how shall we bail Europe? How shall we bail America? How shall we bail Asia? Who should bail the cat? Is it Uganda? Can Ethiopia do that? Can Kenya do that? Is it South Africa to bail the cat? Is it Chad? Is it Mali? Is it Egypt? Is it any other African country? No. The African Union must bail the cat. But the African Union in its present state cannot bail the cat because it is dirty. So we need to put our house in order first as African Union. Only then can we think of bailing the cat. Then we shall hold Europe accountable for the crimes committed against Africans during the transatlantic slave trade, where more than 12.5 million Africans were taken outside. How shall we hold Europe accountable for this if we are not organized? So the African Union must bail the cat. The question is, are we ready to bail the cat? If we don't unite to bail the cat, we shall forever remain toothless barking dogs that cannot bite. A toothless dog can bark, but can it bite? The African Union in its present state today, 2025, can this African Union bite Europe? Can the AU bite America? Can the AU bite Asia? We saw what happened recently in America when Donald Trump took office for the second time. When Donald Trump coughs in the White House, the entire African continent goes into coma. That tells you who is controlling Africa. That tells you how Africa is being governed. That tells you who runs our affairs. So if we cannot take charge of our own affairs, we shall forever remain slaves, fellow Africans. The time is now to rise. You see, look at a global institution like the UN, which claims to promote equality within and among countries. Claims, according to Sustainable Development Goal number 10. But let's look at the UN Security Council. The UN Security Council has 5 permanent members: France, Russia, the UK, the US, and China. Where is Africa there? Africa, a continent of over 1.4 billion people as I speak now, has no permanent member in the Security Council. What are we doing as Africans? What are we doing? So we need to fight to get at least 2 permanent seats at the UN Security Council so that we can now sit at the dinner table as diners also and then start talking like real men. How can the world meet to discuss our affairs at the UN Security Council when we are not represented there with a permanent seat? How can that be? We are over 1.4 billion Africans today. How can it be? Does that make sense to you, fellow Africans? So we need at least 2 permanent seats at the UN Security Council with veto power. We cannot continue to be governed by the 5 countries who are the real owners of the United Nations. We cannot continue like that. Africa has over 1.4 billion Africans. If we don't have a permanent seat at the UN Security Council with veto power, that is an insult to the over 1.4 billion Africans. We cannot accept that. This is not acceptable, fellow Africans. No. We can't accept that. But they are not going to give it to us on a silver plate. No. We have to fight for this. We have to bark and then bite. The problem is the African Union can bark but cannot bite. So we need to sharpen our teeth. Sharpen your teeth. Sharpen your teeth. Sharpen your teeth so that you bark and you bite, fellow Africans. When we gather here at the AU headquarters, we gather here to bark. We don't gather to bite. The African presidents were here and they discussed how they can hold the outside continents accountable for the crimes committed against Africans. They were barking, seriously here, they were barking. The question is, are they going to bite now that they have barked? They will not bite because they are not one, they are not united. So fellow Africans, this is my message to you. Let us demand these permanent seats at the UN Security Council with veto power. We don't want the 2 permanent seats America is offering to Africa, but without the veto power. That is useless. We cannot sit there without power. We need the power to veto decisions and issues. We cannot allow ourselves to be treated like second-class citizens. We are not second-class citizens. We are not. Africans are not second-class citizens. We are first-class people. We are the children of the cradle of human civilization. How can you treat us like we are second-class people? That is not acceptable. So fellow Africans, let us fight to build Africa. We can make a difference in Africa. We can build Africa that we want. In our lifetime, it is possible. But without unity, it is impossible. Unity is everything we need in Africa. Unity will be possible when we have leadership, proper leadership. We need that in Africa today more than before. So leadership is the greatest need of ours in Africa. So fellow Africans, let us all arise. Take your place and make a contribution. We can build Africa that we want. So this is the memorial place for the victory of Adwa. The victory Ethiopians attained at the Battle of Adwa. They defeated Italy because they were organized under a leader. So, I call upon Africans to demand the leadership required for building the Africa that we want. Let us rise and be the leaders that we seek. We are the leaders we seek. Nobody will come from any place and lead Africa for us. Nobody will come from any place and build Africa for us. Nobody will come from any place and run affairs in our favor. No. We are the leaders we seek. Obama said what? We are the change we have been seeking for. Change will not come some other time. We are the change we seek. The great Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. So fellow Africans, are you the change you want to see in Africa? African presidents, are you the change you want to see in Africa? Are you ready to provide the leadership that we need to build Africa that we want? You were here at the AU summit and you were backing. Are you going to bite Europe? Are you going to bite America? Are you going to bite Asia? Are you going to bite the outside countries so that we get reparations for the injustices committed against us, Africans? Fellow Africans, when you come to Ethiopia, come to this place in Addis Ababa and visit this place and take lessons from this memorial place for the victory at Adwa. Ethiopians did it. They showed Africans that we Africans can fight our battles and win when we unite under a leader. What lessons shall we learn from them? They did it and they were never colonized. And up to today, they can walk with their head so high because they resisted colonization. What are we doing today as Africans? Look at areas of trade. Are we trading with one another as African countries? Are we doing that? Look at the many tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers that are impeding trade in Africa. And we claim we want to hold Europe accountable for the crimes committed against Africans. If we cannot hold ourselves accountable for the crimes we are committing against ourselves, how can that be? The injustices we are committing against our own people in Africa here are alarming. How can we talk of Europe paying for the crimes committed against Africans if we cannot pay for the crimes we are committing against ourselves in Africa here? As I travel around Africa, I am amazed by the injustices I see being meted on Africans by Africans in Africa. How do we explain that? How do we go to Europe demanding for reparations when we have a debt to pay to our own people here? How do we demand justice from America when we are committing injustices against our own people here? How many people are in detention without trial right now in Africa? How many children cannot go to school because of corruption? How many people are dying because the money meant for building hospitals was embezzled by Africans? How many people are lacking what to eat because the money meant for developing agriculture was embezzled? Fellow Africans, what are we doing? When I was speaking in Accra, Ghana in November 2024, I said, we live in an Africa in which we live by chance and die by design. I look forward to an Africa in which we will live by design and die by chance. We live in an Africa in which we live by chance and die by design. I look forward to an Africa in which we will live by design and die by chance. That is the Africa we are fighting for. That is the Africa we want. That is the Africa that will sit at the dinner table as a diner, but not food to be eaten. That is the Africa that will hold Europe accountable for the crimes committed against Africans. That is the Africa that can demand reparations from the other continents. That is the Africa whose people can live in peace. That is the Africa that will be owned by Africans. That is the Africa that will be in charge of our resources. That is the Africa that will develop. Are you willing to fight for that Africa? Are we willing to sacrifice for that Africa? Are we ready to build that Africa? So the Battle of Adwa was won by Ethiopia. This is the place for the memory of that great victory attained. So let us adopt that spirit of Adwa so that we can fight as Africans in one spirit to build Africa that we want, so that our people can eat. We want an Africa where our people can eat. People are dying of hunger. People should eat well. People should study well. We should get proper education, not the colonial education that was designed to make us slaves forever. We need our own education. We need to redesign our education systems. We need to be in control of trade in Africa. We don't need aid, we need trade. We don't need aid, we need trade. For Africans, we don't need aid, we need trade. So, we need trade. We need to trade with the world. We need to trade with ourselves. We need to trade with the outside countries. So that we can be economically empowered. So that we can be self-reliant. So that we can be able to feed ourselves. So, may we wake up from the deep slumber. I believe we can build Africa that we want in our lifetime. This is our time to shine. Nobody will come from any place and build Africa for us. We are the ones to do the job. Rise up, fellow Africans. Take up your place. Get on board. Show up. Do the work. Build Africa that we want. In our lifetime, it is possible. Our children will be proud of us. History will be kind to our legacies. Honor will come. Pride will come. Glory will come. Africa will occupy a place on a global stage. And Africa will be respected by the other continents. Long live Africa. God bless Africa. Job Lazarus Okello in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. God bless Africa.